A gambler walked into Las Vegas and won so consistently that casinos treated him like a security threat, not a customer. The number tied to his play is staggering. Tens of millions of dollars extracted from the most analyzed betting systems in America. The central question was never whether he was lucky, but whether he had found a repeatable weakness that the house could not quickly close. The figure at the center of this case is Don Johnson, a high-stakes blackjack player who became a serious problem for multiple casinos. The public story breaks in 2011 after a run of wins in Atlantic City is reported as roughly $15 million in a short period. Those Atlantic City results triggered renewed attention inside casino risk departments because the pattern looked controlled rather than random. What followed was not a single jackpot moment, but a series of negotiated conditions that shifted the mathematical edge away from the house. By the time Las Vegas is folded into the narrative, the claim attached to Johnson is that the cumulative total he took from major casinos reached about $40 million. The initial incident that set this apart was not a suspicious device or an insider leak, but a casino agreeing to terms it normally would not. In high-limit gambling, relationships matter, and casinos sometimes make exceptions to attract players who wager enormous sums per hand. Johnson's leverage came from being able to place very large bets, producing massive theoretical win for the casino if the standard rules stayed in place. But the standard rules did not stay in place because Johnson pushed for changes that together altered the expected value of each hand. This matters because blackjack is not purely chance. Small rule adjustments can move the house edge by fractions of a percent. At low stakes, those fractions are negligible, but at six-figure bets, they become decisive. Before the wins, Johnson had already built a reputation as a player who understood casino procedure and negotiated aggressively. He was not described as using electronics, marked cards, or collusion with dealers in the publicly known accounts of this run. The core allegation from casinos was not cheating, but that he exploited concessions and conditions that were granted by management. In other words, the system failed at the contract level, not the table level. The step-by-step escalation begins when a casino agrees to unusually favorable rules and rebates as part of a high-roller arrangement. One of the key concessions widely reported in connection with Johnson was a loss rebate, sometimes described around 20% of losses. A rebate changes risk because it reduces downside while leaving upside largely intact. Another reported concession was favorable rules on how the dealer handled certain outcomes, such as whether the dealer hits or stands on soft 17. Rule differences like that sound minor, but over thousands of hands they directly affect expected returns. A third element in the public reporting was a request tied to the use of specific decks or the use of continuous shuffling, conditions that influence predictability and edge. Casinos are built to prevent advantage play, but they also compete for high-limit action, and that tension is where mistakes happen. Once favorable terms were approved, the next step was volume. Johnson played for long stretches at extremely high stakes. At that scale, outcomes that look like normal variance to casual observers become operational alarms in a casino surveillance environment. A casino does not need to prove cheating to act. It can limit play, alter conditions, or refuse action if the risk model breaks. But risk models can lag behind reality when management has already locked in special terms for a VIP. The technical breakdown starts with the idea of house edge. Under normal blackjack rules, the casino has a small statistical advantage. If a player uses perfect basic strategy, that house edge shrinks, but the casino usually stays ahead. If rules become more favorable, that edge can approach zero, and in rare setups, it can tip slightly to the player. Add a loss rebate, and the distribution of results changes again because large losing swings become partially reimbursed. The rebate functions like insurance purchased from the casino itself, priced into the deal but often misjudged when paired with other concessions. At extremely high stakes, a small positive expectation can translate into millions over a relatively short session schedule. The operational breakdown also includes control of conditions, what rules apply, how the shoe is managed, and how disputes are handled. In casino environments, these are governance issues, not just game issues, and they involve executives, hosts, and risk personnel. As Johnson's wins accumulated, casino staff began treating the situation as a potential advantage play incident, even if no cheating method was evident. The discovery phase unfolded through internal metrics, daily win-loss, table hold percentage, and variance thresholds that surveillance and finance teams monitor. A high roller losing big is expected, but a high roller winning repeatedly under special terms forces a review of who approved the deal and why. This is where Johnson's case becomes institutional because it implicates policy and oversight rather than a single dealer's conduct. In the widely reported Atlantic City sequence, Johnson's results were associated with multiple casinos rather than just one table or one property. That spread matters because it suggests a repeatable approach, negotiate terms, then apply disciplined play at scale. Once those outcomes became public, the narrative expanded beyond Atlantic City to the broader question of whether similar vulnerabilities existed in Las Vegas deals. The institutional response inside casinos typically begins with containment, stop the action, change the rules, or end the relationship. It also includes retroactive analysis, reconstructing sessions from table records, surveillance footage, and dealer logs. If cheating is suspected, casinos may involve regulators and, depending on evidence, law enforcement. But when the advantage stems from approved concessions, the issue becomes whether management effectively authorized a losing game. In those circumstances, the practical remedy is usually procedural. Rewrite the rules for VIP deals, tighten approval chains, and cap rebates or special conditions. The investigation and tracking phase in a casino context is less about tracing digital footprints and more about tracing authorization and decision-making. Executives, hosts, and table games managers become part of the paper trail because each concession has to be requested, approved, and implemented. The casino also tests the mathematics, calculating the expected value under the exact rule set and rebate structure that was in force. If the model shows the player edge was plausible, the conclusion shifts from suspected fraud to failed risk controls. In Johnson's case, public accounts consistently frame the outcome as legitimate advantage play, enabled by negotiated terms rather than illegal manipulation. That distinction is why the story persists. A system designed to win may still lose if it sells the wrong product to the wrong customer. The consequences were not limited to money paid out, but to reputational risk and internal pressure on the teams that approved the arrangements. A multi-million-dollar loss at a blackjack table becomes a governance incident, often triggering audits and tighter constraints on comps, credit, and rebates. For casinos, the damage assessment includes comparing that loss to typical table game revenue and determining whether similar deals exist elsewhere in the portfolio. For the broader industry, the Johnson run became a case study in how sophisticated players can weaponize negotiation rather than card counting alone. Card counting itself is not illegal, but casinos reserve the right to refuse service, and they actively look for any consistent advantage behavior. The Johnson episode demonstrated a different risk category, contractually granted advantage, where the casino's usual countermeasures arrived too late. As the story spread, the number 40 million became a shorthand claim for his overall impact across major gambling hubs, including Las Vegas. In investigative terms, that figure is best treated as an aggregate widely repeated in media, rather than a single verified balance sheet released by casinos. Casinos rarely disclose full details of VIP agreements, and non-disclosure terms can limit what becomes publicly confirmable. What is clear from public reporting is that Johnson's Atlantic City run was large enough to force policy changes and widespread internal scrutiny. The current status, as reflected in open sources, is that Johnson remains known primarily for this negotiated edge episode rather than for any criminal case. No definitive public record ties this run to a prosecution for cheating, which reinforces the interpretation that the conduct fell within agreed game conditions. The long-term impact sits with the institutions. Casinos tightened high roller terms, scrutinized rebates, and became more resistant to bespoke blackjack rules. This is the operational lesson. The biggest vulnerabilities are sometimes created voluntarily through incentives and competition, not through intrusion. The open-ended problem for the industry is that high-stakes gambling always depends on exceptions, and exceptions are where controls fail. As long as casinos negotiate private terms to attract large action, the line between marketing and exposure remains thin. The final unanswered point is not whether Vegas can be beaten in theory, but how often it is beaten quietly through deals that never become public.